I want to thank everybody for attending the Atlantic Institute's Cuisine of Different Cultures. And we're going to do, Freya, what is it we're doing again? Bombay
Mix.
Bombay mix, which looks really good and looks like a great snack. But I'm going to show you what the Atlantic Institute is about, and it's just a couple minutes long, and it'll get help so that anybody else that needs to come in can come in. The Atlantic Institute is a nonprofit that promotes positive dialogue between different religions, cultures, that sort of thing. Our vision is of a peaceful world, and what better way to do that than to have conversations and learn about different cultures. So I'm going to switch over to sharing my screen. I'm also going to turn on the live transcript. Live transcript is on now. There we go. And share screen.
The Atlantic Institute is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting harmonious coexistence between peoples of various cultures, faiths, and backgrounds. We seek this goal through peaceful dialogue, education initiatives, and community organization. Our dialogue events bring together experts, community and faith leaders, and knowledge seekers to address social issues that affect us all. We feel dialogue is the most important element in peaceful coexistence, so we try and maintain several panel discussions, TED Talk events, and book clubs throughout the year. These events touch on social issues, race relations, and cultural understanding and are a mainstay of our programming. The Atlantic Institute's education events are extremely important to our mission of understanding. We want to promote socially forward critical thinking to students of all ages. To that end, we have developed programs that seek to grow the creative spirit of students and help them think about their communities and the world around them. Our Future Leaders of Dialogue event brings together nominated elite students to learn from each other as well as political and business leaders. Our art and essay contest gives students a theme about important societal issues and allows them to create wonderful works of art and writing while steering their minds towards improving their world. We're always seeking ways to educate youths and adults in order to make a peaceful world for all of us. Our community events are designed to transform neighbors into friends and groups of people into a community. By associating with other nonprofits or by our own initiative, we are always trying to discover new avenues to improve our neighborhoods, places of worship, and community centers. We host cooking demonstrations of food from other cultures, work with various nonprofits to help elevate the work of others, and try to find a way to make the lives of those who are disenfranchised or marginalized better. Building a more peaceful world starts in our backyards, so we are dedicated to improving our communities and associations. The Atlantic Institute is always seeking like-minded volunteers and collaborators. If you would like to learn more, find volunteer opportunities, or just want to chat with our staff, please visit our website at www.atlanticinstitutesc.org or follow us on Facebook. We will never run out of fun, educational, peaceful events, so come join us to help make this world a better place full of understanding and unity.
I love every bread, all the breads. Oh my God, you made.
All right. So I'm going to stop sharing now. For those of you who just come in, if you notice in the chat, we put where we're from. If you could do that would be great. You could just put your city, state, that's fine, or country. I appreciate that. And now I am going to spotlight our instructor for the day. And I don't want to say her name wrong, so I'm going to let her introduce herself. But thank you and enjoy.
Hi, I'm Priya, and I'm cooking today from Copenhagen. I am a food studies scholar. I write about food. I study food history, and also write about it as well. And I volunteered with Paula last year, so I could cook and make a demonstration of an Indian food. And I was approached again this year, so I'm so happy to be here to show you how to make a very ubiquitous Indian snack, which in much of Europe, in the UK and in the US is called Bombay mix. But in most of India, if you went and asked people for Bombay mix, they would never know what it is because it has a lot of other names. There are a lot of regional names to this dish. And the reason why I did not land up sending a recipe to Paula was because this is really something you can make. You can make your own by customizing the ingredients, customizing the spices, and it's very easy, so to say. But it's there's a little nuance in the technique, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. And I hope, yeah, you can join me here. If you have any questions, please please ask. I don't mind being interrupted. It's nice to have a conversation as we cook. I'm just trying to get this this video unpinned so I can see what you're seeing. Just a second. Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to introduce you to some of the ingredients you might have seen before, and we'll go to the tools, and then we'll talk about how to make it. But like all fried things, we have to start with oil, and that's what we do today. I'm going to set the oil. I have a gas stove here, which Paula will show you. You can see this window separately as well. You can pin it if you would rather see it being cooked. I'm going to set some oil in here so that it can heat up while we talk. Okay, so that's going to slowly, I put it on a low to medium flame, and I'm going to let that slowly heat up and come to about 180 degrees centigrade. Some of the common things that you might have seen in a Bombay mix is something like this. You know, a packet of something like this. It has many different names. They come with a dozen different names. You can find them in a lot of ethnic grocery stores. They look like they have a lot of different components, crunchy components. Some of them you can identify. They are nuts. Some of them look like grains, and I'll show you how. A lot of the other things just look like extruded bits. And indeed they are. We use a very special extruder, and there are a lot of hacks. You can use other kinds of kitchen tools to achieve similar results. I'll talk about that as well. And they also contain these little beads that you might have seen. They're called bundi. Bundi literally means a drop. And all of these ingredients, these little components, are made from chickpea flour, mainly, or sometimes rice flour. And but these are the two main things. Often you would find that large FMCG manufacturers who make these kinds of mixes, they use a variety of the cheaper beans because it's easier to import and make them. Tepari bean is one such bean. Though in India, that's not the traditional ingredient. Now, when I say chickpea flour, it's gram flour, which you might also find. I can type it into the chat. So let's look at the ingredients here. It's a flour like this, and you can't grind it at home. It is best that it's store bought, and the package should say gram flour, and not it could say chickpea flour, but it must definitely say gram flour, because chickpea flour that is not bought in an Indian store typically is made from the pink colored chickpea that you would make a hummus from, for example. But this is not the same flour. This is made from a brown chickpea, from a dark brown chickpea. And it has a very different taste, a very different mouthfeel when you fry it. And it's important that you take note of this fine detail there, right? So I'll show you how to use this flour. there are some basic tools that will be nice to have. A candy thermometer, if you have one, because then you can learn how to keep your oil at the right temperature. It shouldn't smoke up because that would mean your ingredients would singe really fast. You don't want that. A variety of different sieves to get the food out. One is a classic perforated ladle. This would take the big bits out. You could also use something like this with a wire mesh. And if you have something that's got a very fine mesh, it helps because this helps you skim any of the, the settlement, the little bits that will settle at the bottom of the pot. So it's a really nice tool to have, something to skim off things when you are frying stuff. And of course, it's good to have a pair of tongs. And, I'm going to show you some ingredients that we are going to use today. Chickpea flour will be the primary one. But apart from that, we're going to use a variety of different rice rice ingredients, rice-based ingredients that you would typically find in an Indian store or an ethnic store. I think any South Asian grocery store should have these. One of the most popular things you would see is this. It's puffed rice, and there are many variations of this. You might even find red rice that's puffed, for example, or smaller grains of rice, but they go by the name mamra or murmura, but it would say puffed rice. And it's a wonderful raw ingredient to have on hand. It's the quickest thing to make a snack out of. It's a very healthy ingredient if you don't have to fry it. So yeah, this is really nice handy to have. Kids love to have it.
Can you type some of these names into the chat?
Sure.
Because even though we have the live transcription going, it is given it weird names.
No problem, I'll do that. This is puffed rice. Earlier I talked about chickpea, and here we have to look for chickpea that's called besan or gram flour. And this is just to give you an idea of the landscape of ingredients. We don't have to use all of it today, but just so that you know when you go to a shop and you can see it again, and then you would know it, you'll remember this, and at least you know what it's used for. So these are rice flakes, if you can see. And these again, you would find, they're available in a variety of different thicknesses. So this is a very, very thin flake. You can almost, I can take a flake and show you how thin it is. It's so thin that it doesn't even need to be fried. It can just be toasted. Whereas this is a thicker flake, and you can see it's much thicker when you touch. So usually the packaging for these products would say whether it's a thick flattened rice or a flake, or a thin flake or an extra thin flake. That's usually mentioned. This is called a flattened rice, or it would say poha. It's great. Please ask these questions, because then when I send the final recipe, I will remember to address all these points. Because when I started writing this down, I was afraid I would turn people off with the degree of detail that I might go into. Which is easier to digest when you're listening, but if you have to read through so much, it's going to be really hard. You can also try and find these kinds of flakes with colored rice, like red rice or black rice. This is red rice, for example. It's a rather thick flake, and you can fry this. But with the extra thin flakes, you shouldn't fry them because they would then soak up a lot of oil. When we cook with it, you will see, yeah? And then we can use things like cashews. I have raisins here. You can use sultanas if you would like that. And, coconut pieces. You could also use them fresh if you have. I don't have them fresh. I have them dried. These are shavings of coconut. And peanuts, of course, unprocessed peanuts. So if you have the peanuts, it's a good idea to just shell it and put it in here. And some of the healthier things that you could add is a variety of different pulses and grams, like this is mung bean. So a variety of different beans could be actually added. If you want to add beans, then you must soak it in water. Like I soaked this around noon today. It's 7 p.m. here. So about 6 hours, and it's really soft. The best way to know if it's soaked enough is to taste it. It's really soft and it's delicious. And you need to be sure that you've soaked it through. And then you can drain it, which we'll do now. Drain it and let the water drain because you can then fry it. And then I'm going to tell you about the spices that we're going to use here. One of the most important spices or herbs that we're going to use is a curry leaf. It adds amazing aroma to a Bombay mix. You have to make sure that you fry the leaf thoroughly in oil to make sure that the moisture is removed completely and it's crisp and it's delicious. Apart from this, we use salt. We'll use, and I prefer to use like rock salt. When I say rock salt, I mean granular sea salt, which I will grind in a pestle and mortar so that it's really fine. And that way it's easy to blend. If you use table salt, sometimes I find that it doesn't mix well and then the salt settles at the bottom. So we'll go through that when we do this, yeah? We'll use a bit of turmeric, a little bit of chili powder, if you like that. Sometimes you could use this for color. I can show you a simple puffed rice preparation that would use this for color. And you can try and look for any packet that says Kashmiri chili or Degi Mirach. I can type that in because those offer a lot of color without the pungency. I'm going to, I think maybe this camera is better if everyone can see me. So, we'll start with a half a cup measurement of chickpea flour, flat cup. Yeah. And you can take it in the bowl. I'm just going to see if it's easier to be visible here. Maybe that's just easier. Paula, is that easier?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, I had my volume off.
A little bit of salt to go with this. And a tiny bit of turmeric. And tiny bit of chili powder. What we're going to do here is to try and make a very stiff dough. We're going to then use this dough to extrude noodles out of this. This is a contraption you might have seen in some videos or seen a picture of. You can push dough through this, and you can put different plates here. So you get different kinds of plates with perforations of different sizes. Many cultures have cookie makers, like in Denmark, where I live, we use a very similar thing to make Christmas cookies. You can see there are different sizes. You can also make flat tapes like ribbons out of this, or you can also extrude like star-shaped, long, thick rods. And I'm going to use one which is very, very thin today. So we would put it here. Put that here. And if you don't have this contraption, you can use a potato ricer. That's a great replacement for this. You just can't make such fine ones, but you can easily extrude these, this size. And I've been in a session where I had friends who didn't have this, and they used a potato ricer. Some others even pushed it through this sort of a perforated ladle. And actually, you would be surprised that the really traditional way to make it, even today, is to take the dough and actually grate it through this. So, and those are handmade snacks, and they are for the local market. People actually prefer eating the handmade version than the machine extruded version. So that's an interesting trivia. It sells at a premium in Rajasthan, for example, where bhujia is made. So that's not a bad idea at all. You can just take your perforated ladle and then push the dough through it. So here to making the dough, you have to make sure that when the I don't know if you can see this. Yeah. So you have to use your fingers to make sure that there are no lumps whatsoever. It's a fairly well finished flour when you buy it, so you shouldn't have any problems. Just make sure the sugar is well, the salt is well mixed. A bit more salt. This makes a lot. So that's the other thing, right? You can easily buy a packet of the snacks and it's probably easier to eat. But when you make it at home, you can control what you put into it. So for example, if peanuts don't suit you, you don't have to use peanuts. You can use some other kinds of nuts. So you can really control what you eat here. You have to take a spoonful of the hot oil. This is a way to do, it's a very traditional way to make shortening. And then you put it on top of this. It'll sizzle. And then when you do this, and if you can see, there's a little bit of froth here, and that's the shortening. And you continue to use your fingers to remove any lumps. It's a bit like how you would make a pie crust, where you would use the butter that's really cold, and then you would make sure that eventually the mixture begins to resemble breadcrumbs. That's the same philosophy here. You would basically remove all that to make it feel like breadcrumbs. I think it's a good idea to also just see how this dough comes together, because how much volume of water the dough takes, or hydration as they would call it, really depends on how the age of the flour and the variety of chickpea and so many of those factors. So I can tell you that for 100 grams dough, you would probably need 80 ml of water, but you probably don't need all 80 ml, and sometimes you might need a full 98% hydration, which is 95 ml of water. So I think the thing to go with would be to see what consistency it needs to look like, or it needs to feel like. And that's always, eyeballing it is always the way to go, I think, in some of these things. So you can see it's come off my fingers as well. Right, so it's so easy to put together, huh? Go easy on the water, a little bit at a time. It soaks up water very fast. And then, give it a nice roll between your palms. You use a drop of normal oil to give it a good finish. Make a smooth ball of this. Now we will take this and you can give this a slight coating of oil here. Right. Base, just to make sure you manage to get the entire dough out. You don't lose bits of it inside. It just slides out easily. A fun thing to do with kids, if you are in the mood for it, is that you can also hand roll. So that's again a traditional thing where you can hand roll little noodles. We can make little pasta shapes and you can fry them in oil. Kids love that. You can also do these. You might have seen them in some packets where people make little circles like these, and you can fry those as well. And that's a snack as well. Okay, so we're gonna put this in. Am I going too fast? Someone's asking if I'm making shortening. I said, yes, that is the shortening. It's just hot oil. I have put it in. The oil is hot. I can feel it's warm, but it's not smoking hot, and that's important. The way to use this tool is to okay, so let's get this out here. I want to place some. Make sure you have your paper in place. Remember, your dough is stiff, and that is important, that it's not too. By turning this thing the other anti-clockwise, you can stop it from extruding. Keep the heat low, it's fine. It's slow, but it prevents anything from burning. Give it a flip. You can see that it's still sizzling around, which means it's yet to cook. And as it's done, the sizzling stops. Make sure you take it out. Keep the heat low. If you want, I can change the plate and show you. So. Put the fine one here. Some holes are blocked. And then make sure you put a drop of oil, smear with the oil, and put it back in, and you can change the size. The thing about crunchy mixes is that the science behind it is that if you have bits and pieces, even if the flour is the same, if you have bits and pieces of different sizes, thicknesses, sizes, you have them of different thicknesses, they fry differently, right? And when they have different lengths and different sizes, the crunch, the sound of the crunch has a profound impact on how you experience the snack. Snacks that have multiple crunchy elements are always a lot more delicious than than one that's just made up of a singular kind. For example, having 5 Pringles chips at the same time is tastier than eating one at a time. At least that's what the science says. I put a small one. It's not a very soft dough. And that is important because if it's a very soft dough, then it will tend to spread in the oil. So if you would like them to look thin and delicate, the dough has to be stiff. And see, it's done. That's it. I'm going to come and show you these. This was the first one we made. And this is the second one we made. And it's really delicate. And maybe delicious too. I'm going to show you how to make the beads, if you would like to see that. To make the beads, you need to make a slurry of chickpea flour. So you can take even a 1/4 cup chickpea flour. Some salt in it. And turmeric.
We can't see what you're doing.
And then you make a slurry of it, like a very thick paste. I'll show it to you under the camera here so you can see it. Again, here, go with an eye feel, get a feel for how runny the batter is. It's a fairly thick batter. It shouldn't be too runny. It's like yogurt, for example. If you get yogurt in a pourable consistency in where you live, it's almost the same consistency.
Priya?
Yeah.
Did you took the flour and you added water and turmeric?
Yeah, some salt and turmeric.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. So salt and turmeric is a standard. That's pretty much what people add. There's nothing more to it. Turmeric, because you like that yellow color. And this is already a yellow ingredient. If you don't have turmeric, you don't need to add it. Salt, the basic condiment. So in the first one, we added a little bit of hot oil to make the shortening, and then we made a dough. This is just a runny paste. And you can taste it and check if the salt is fine, if it's salted enough. And this is a tool I'm going to use. It's a perforated ladle, but it has a slight edge to it, almost like a dish. You could use your perforated ladle. It's totally fine. It'll also work. This is a kitchen tool you get specifically for this. And I just happen to have it, so I'm going to use that. You need to pour this on this and watch as I'm pouring. I'm not going to do much of it. You know, I'm not going to press it through, but if you did that, can you see the balls sizzling here? Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes. So that's what will happen. The slurry falls through it, and you will end up with little beads. Collect these things here. Then we can skim a little bit of this off. Just wait for the sizzling to stop. That's a sign that it's done. Then you can, it's still sizzling. Make sure you wait, because that's when bundi is crisp through. It has to cook through to the center. It's thicker, right, than the noodles. So we're almost there. The challenge with keeping the oil too hot is that as soon as you put it into the hot oil, it will tend to change color. And as far as this preparation goes, the visual appearance of it is just as important as it being cooked through or time, for that matter. I'm going to bring it here and show it to you so that you can see what I've just fried. You can make little beads. It's fairly easy. And it's quite crisp, yeah. Okay, so now we are done making some basic ingredients. I have a box of bundi, so we could use that and save time rather than make it now. I'm going to move the camera here. Okay. Also here. Make the heat back to low again. And we're going to fry a couple of simple things like nuts and raisins and peanuts. So make sure the heat is really low. A handful of sultanas or raisins.
I've never fried raisins before. What is the reason for frying them?
Because they soak the taste better. You would always do that, for example, when you make a pilaf or a biryani and you're using raisins in it, you would always fry that in the ghee. All of this could be fried in ghee as well. But frying raisins is a rather common thing. We do also for sweet dishes. A lot of Indian sweet dishes would use raisins and then you would fry them.
Okay.
A handful of cashews. As you can see, my heat is really low here. And that's important.
And the nuts you put in, you said are cashews?
Yeah, I have cashews here, yes.
Okay. And does frying the raisins change the flavor a lot?
I think it absorbs the flavors, but otherwise it's quite dry, right? Okay. So if you want the salt and when we add the overall spices later, okay, if you wanted to absorb that, or at least, I think what salt probably does is softens the raisins and also gives it a sticky surface because there's oil on the surface that will then take the salt, right?
Okay.
So, then, we will fry some of the, I use the red rice so that it's different to see. You can see the difference. This is the red rice. And I'm going to actually put it on this and immerse this in this. You see, it really will crispen up.
That was quick.
That was exactly. So if you have a frying, one of these machines that you can have to fry, and you have a basket that you can immerse and take out, it would be ideal.
They were asking what item that was, and that was the red rice, correct?
That's the flaked rice that I showed you first. So you
flaked
could easily
rice.
find this in any South Asian grocery store. They call it flattened rice. It's a very, very important ingredient in South Asian cuisine, Nepali, Indian, Sri Lankan cuisine. So it should be fairly easy to find also online. And then the thinner ones, I'll show you how to do it. It's slightly different. Now we're going to do the messy stuff, which is the slightly moist beans, the sprouted beans that we had. I'm going to because it's going to splutter. There's water in it and it will splutter. So I've just covered it. Don't worry, it won't burn. Wait for the sizzling to stop, then you know it's done. And you can do this with dal, any kind of dal that you have. Mung bean dal, the yellow dal, the chana dal. All Indian dals could be soaked, and then you just drain the water. Make sure you don't drain it on a cloth or something. It still needs that moisture to fry well. So if you drain it on a cloth and remove all the water content and then try to fry it, sometimes they have a bite. And you want it to be crispy, not have a bite. It's still sizzling.
Priya, how do you spell the name of that? It's coming up dal, as in baby doll.
Yeah, D-A-L dal.
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you, Gwen.
Yeah, I think you need to let it, needs to cook through. I'm going to turn on the pan here so that we can put it all together. At this point, when there's still some moisture there, you could also put in some curry leaves, fresh curry leaves. Just take them off the stem. Frozen ones don't work well, so fresh curry leaves it is. And just add them into the oil. They will splutter a bit. So.
And they want to know if the rice and beans have been soaked. Not the rice, but the beans.
Sorry, the rice and the beans, sorry?
Have the rice and beans
no,
been soaked?
Only the beans have been soaked. The rice is a dry product. You can see it's a standard product. You get to buy it. It's called flattened rice or poha. If someone can find that link on Amazon and put it into the thing, then maybe it's easier for others to follow. You could also use dried peas. Yeah, let me see if I can find something while it's frying here. Did you say? Yeah, you can see it has stopped sizzling now. And the curry leaves are really crisp. There's a variety of things. I'm going to move this camera here. Is that easier to see? Can you see this?
Yes.
So I've heated this on 7, which is medium to high, 6.5, 7. To do this step, you should try and find a fat that is that will like ghee or coconut oil, which can sort of harden up when it cools down. That way the spices mix and stay on the surface. I'm going to use just a little bit of ghee to get this going. So if you're familiar with chaat masala, it's a wonderful addition. If you want a more North Indian flavor to it, try and add chaat masala. It's an easy mix. An important tip here, when you add salt to the finished product to make the final mix, make sure that the salt is ground in a pestle and mortar, because even if it's table salt, like really fine salt, because you want to make sure that all the salt is able to coat the product. It's a bit like when you make popcorn. You want to find, you don't want the salt to roll off the surface.
What are you grounding right now? The salt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really fine, even if it's fine table salt and you put it into your pestle and mortar and give it a grind, it's much finer. You can also use cornflakes. It's very popular to fry cornflakes and put them in. You can just really fry anything that you like in your mix. It's up to you. And I think the good thing is that you can choose what you eat and you can make them in really small quantities. Going through a bag can be really easy otherwise. Ghee.
And that's ghee, right?
Ghee, yeah. You can also use plain oil. Reduce
and it's GHEE or
GHE. Bit of salt, little bit of turmeric, just to give it that color.
Turmeric, yes.
Turmeric, yeah. I want to show you how to fry the very thin rice as well. So I'm going to show it to you here. At this point, you can add thin rice flakes. As you can see, it doesn't need much oil. You can also, if your pan is hot enough, you can also reduce the heat to a 1 or 2, or even turn it off. And in the heat of the pan, you can see that they will curl up. And they are done. Extra thin rice flakes are very delicate, so don't try to fry them. They become too oily. And at this stage, if you want to add a red chili or something, you're welcome to do that. I have some chaat masala here. It's a very popular condiment you can find or a spice blend. Never try making it at home. Just go for the store-bought one. Add a little
Do you
bit.
type the name of that into the?
Yes, I will do that. And then just go ahead and add all the things that you fried in. If you feel like crushing them, crush them and add them. And there you go. With your rice crisps and your lentils and the raisins, the cashews. Just give it a, my heat is still on, so the ghee is warm, and it will make sure that the spices that you put in, the little powder that you put in, is evenly distributed. You can see that the leaf is really crispy. They're very tasty to eat. That's it. And, you can eat a nice cup of chai to down this. Allow it to cool down because crispy things are crispier when they are cool. That's it. Should we spoon it out in a plate?
And how long will this last? Like on the shelf kind of thing?
Not on the plate. On the plate,
no.
minutes. On the shelf, it's many weeks. If you fried it well, the thing is, anything made with the chickpea flour, it's a dry ingredient, so there is nothing to go wrong. It can last a year. In fact, the origin of these noodles, these chickpea noodles, is from the deserts of Western India. It's from Rajasthan. And in the old days, about 100 years ago, 150 years ago, these were made and kept in stock as a store-cupboard ingredient. So it was really a food security commodity, People carried it when they traveled. People kept it in, women put it away in boxes. They would make it in the summers and they would put it away in boxes. So the culture of eating it is also very different. People don't sit and snack on it on a sofa. It is actually used just like a vegetable. It's used in gravies. It's used in curries.
Oh,
so
wow.
the bundi and the noodle extruded thing that we made are all put into gravies. And for them, it's used on a day when there is nothing else at home. So it's also a very quick dinner. And it's wholesome because it's made from whole chickpea plants, very high in protein. I think they also work very hard, so anything fried didn't matter so much.
So I have put my email address in the chat. If anybody, I'll do it again here. If anybody wants the recipe, email me and I'll send you the recipe next week.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, does anybody have any questions right now?
Please ask. I love questions.
I've had a couple people saying they want to try making it, so hopefully they'll email me soon. All right. Oh, look at that. It looks just like the picture she sent us practically. If you're interested in getting the recipe, please email me. My email address is in the chat. It's easier to copy and paste it if you can do that. We do these programs once a month, cultural creations and cuisine of different cultures. You can get to them through Eventbrite or through our website, Atlantic Institute SC or Atlantic Institute South Carolina. If you could send me the email, that would be great. It's hard for me to get them out of the chat here sometimes, and once we close this, it won't keep. And then there'll be a cookbook at the end of the year, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you very much. I'm going to end the recording now. Stop recording.